Jupiter Broadcasting presents this program in stereo. This episode brought to you in part by GoDaddy.com.
This week on the Linux Action Show, the internet tells us OpenGL is dead. But is it all blown out of proportion? Mandriva's back in the news, and we've got the lowdown on their future plans. Then, we kick off an action investigation into the Ubuntu Software Center, and we've got some major concerns. Brace yourselves. Oh, this week on the Linux Action Show! And welcome to Season 13, Episode 9, the 129th?
Yeah, buddy.
129th episode of the Linux Action Show. My name is Brian. That guy is Chris.
Hey there, Brian. Amazon's new web services software run Linux. I've talked about briefly Amazon EMC services on the big show before. But this is...
No way.
This is a distribution...
Say it isn't so.
Now, you know what EMC is, right? They're sort of on-demand, scalable server infrastructure you can virtualize up on Amazon servers.
It's gorgeous.
It's on-demand.
It's beautiful.
You can set stuff up so that if something hits a certain load point, another machine turns up and takes the load on.
It spins up, and yeah, it's great.
And so now Amazon has released their own AMI Linux distribution. AMI is sort of what the machines are called, the Amazon multiple something or other, blah, blah, blah.
The AMIs.
Whatever it stands for, it's their own distribution now. And that actually set off a red flag of mine because distros need a release of source code. And there wasn't initially a big, hey, here's where you can find the source code for our distro.
Yeah.
And the other thing I thought is this is probably just another Ubuntu distribution because Ubuntu makes their own Amazon EC2 distribution.
Yes, they
but
do.
This is actually a take on CentOS. It's a pretty nice deal.
Really?
And you can use Amazon S3 for your back-end storage, so it's accessible to the operating system just like a disk, which is kind of neat.
I dig that.
And it's all ready to go.
That's a good way for Amazon to make more money.
Yeah.
Right there is what that is.
Yep. I think this is a neat deal though if you're like testing a project and you need like a couple hours of high performance server time.
That's
you
true.
can spin one of these suckers up, spend a couple of bucks, and then done.
Yeah.
Not bad, right?
Yeah.
You like that?
I love that, actually.
How you doing this week, Brian?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing?
Pretty good. We got a pretty big show lined up for us today.
No, it's not true.
Oh,
It's not true. This show...
Probably just tune out now.
It's going to be a little poopy.
Oh.
It's not going to be good.
Man, why did I show up for this one?
Yeah, I know. I'm not really entirely sure. I was just thinking we just kind of phoned this one in.
All right. Well, shit, if I would have known that, I would have Skyped in from my office. In
Everybody who's listening, turn off now. It's not going to be interesting. There's not going to be technical information. We're not going to have opinions. And I'm going to talk like a girl the entire time.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's no good.
Before we go into that, we should say thanks to the buddies over at GoDaddy, because I've got an Android pick I want to share after that.
Okay, because this episode of Linux Action Show is brought to you by GoDaddy.com, the world's largest something or other and domain name something or other. If you would like to share websites online with your domain name, such as perhaps lemonparty.org. Perhaps you would like to register a website called lemonparty.org.
I think I want to register jupiterbroadcasting.com.
That is a great way to go.
Yeah.
A fantastic website to register. Everyone go out and register jupiterbroadcasting.com through GoDaddy.com. And once you've done that, use coupon code Linux, Linux, save 10% off of that purchase. Or if you're getting a web server to go along with it, let's say you wanted to host your family pictures at jupiterbroadcasting.com, which you just saved 10% on. You can save 20% on the hosting by typing in Linux 20. How fancy is that?
Oh, good news, Brian.
All at one spot.
ilovefedora.com is available for you.
That's perfect. So later on today, I'll be registering ilovefedora.com and putting something wonderful up.
And you could use that code Linux to save yourself 10% off.
Are you trying to bait me into a Fedora thing right now?
Nope.
Because it's not possible.
I don't know what we're talking about.
Because I mentioned this a few episodes back. I will only hate on Fedora every other episode.
All right, so we're on an off episode?
I love Fedora right now.
Can I just compliment GoDaddy and their technology? Every time I reload the homepage, Danica Patrick is wearing a different outfit. And that's not a situation that I mind at all.
You know what's amazing is you can. It's so true that once you realize it's happening, you can keep hitting refresh, and they keep being new outfits. Oh, same T-shirt. Oh,
that's all right. I like that one.
I think we hit the end of the T-shirt. Yeah,
that's a good one though.
There's the end of the T-shirt line.
All right. So now last week.
Shame, shame, shame.
Last week was kind of cool. So I covered that IP webcam that converts your Android phone into a. And Madjo, if you're in the chat, I know you're in the chat room. If you have a link to your App Brain list, I'll put that in this week's show notes because I've gotten a lot of people asking about that, and I keep forgetting to do that. Last week I covered IP webcam that converts your Android into like a little, remote.
It was pretty
webcam.
cool, actually.
Some guy emailed me. He's like, "Hey, Chris, thanks for the pic. I used it as a baby monitor. Isn't that cute?"
Oh, that is really
cool.
cool.
He had a baby monitor.
That's
and
a really expensive baby monitor.
Well, I guess it sounded like he was over at a family's and they were napping, so he just put the phone in the other room.
Oh, that's pretty cool then. All right, now I'm with it.
All right. So this week I have a problem.
What do you got?
I had XM. Remember XM satellite radio?
Very well.
Well, we cancanceled that.
Of course you did.
Yeah,
because it's terrible.
I just did not enjoy it. I just wasn't pleased for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, I had XM for a while.
Yeah.
I got XM with one of those. They had a little portable XM that allowed you to record. It allowed you to record the shows, but you couldn't schedule it. So like there's some great shows on XM, and I wanted to record some of those shows. Couldn't schedule it. I had to be listening to it and click record at the time and click stop. So no DVR, even though it had a schedule in there. I could view the schedule.
Was that for like piracy reasons?
But I don't know. Probably. But man, would it have been awesome. Because, I'm not going to stay up till like, midnight to catch some random talk show I like.
Totally.
Ridiculous.
So I canceled that S. And since then, they have called me twice a day, every day.
Really?
7 days
to get you to come back to
7 days a week.
Seriously.
I will have 2 missed calls today. I have missed calls in the evening. I get calls during the day. So I had to say, enough is enough. I tried to get them to stop. I couldn't get them to stop. So I went out and got an Android app called Call Block Unlimited. And this is really nice because it reads your address book and your call log. And you can say, you know what? The person in this call log has been a bad boy. You can also do whitelists. You don't have to. It's not all about blocking. It's free. And you can do stuff like send this phone number directly to voicemail, sure. But you can also do things like return a busy tone. And that's the big one to get off these automated calling lists, because after their system registers nobody's available and it's a bad tone for long, they take you off their list.
Oh.
So that's what's really nice about this one.
That's pretty cool.
It's not just it's
not just, ignore this call.
Right.
Oh, that's way cool.
The other thing you can do is you can go into whitelist only mode. So only these handful of people can get through to my phone right now.
Man, that is some technology right there.
Yeah. Now, I don't totally need this because I have Google Voice, but this is nice for that, I'm out on the road, this person's harassing me, or I need to turn this mode on really quick. And I don't know, I don't think Google Voice allows me to return a busy tone. I might be wrong on that.
Interesting.
But this has been a cool app.
That's very, very cool.
I've only been using it for a couple of days, but I was like, this is just nuts. And these is one of those things where I was like, I got to go fix this.
Hey, did you ever, like, in the old days, you ever make a busy switch for old land phone lines?
No, but what I did have, this is kind of a funny story, is those old rotary phones?
Yeah.
I opened my grandpa's up, and I moved one of the wires over and then put a little piece of tape down. It actually held, and so every time he picked it up, he got a beep, 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 beep. That was my funny.
You were a mean kid.
and then I didn't screw it back down, so then my grandpa would be like, Christopher, and I would fix it. Grandpa, it's working fine.
Did he ever catch on?
Oh, I think so. I think he was humoring me. My grandpa was pretty savvy. He probably could have fixed it. I was young.
Well, I used to run BBSs back in the day.
Sure.
And you take the BBS down because you got to modify it. You got to put new games up and whatnot. So people are calling in like
you're not available because you got it down.
So I got to take it down. So instead of people just getting a ringing, you don't want people to ring because then they'll think, oh my gosh,
he's down.
This BBS is gone.
That's how I feel when I take the live stream down to update the reruns.
But what you got to do is you got to make it busy. So then they psychologically think, oh wow, this BBS is hot. It's hot stuff. Yeah, I got to keep trying. So what you do, you take an old phone line, clip it off, strip a little bit of the end. There's 2 wires coming out of that phone line. Tie those suckers together. Stick it right back in the switch. Everyone who calls that line will show the line as being busy.
That's a great idea.
They'll just get a busy signal.
Awesome. That phone.
I used to have a bunch of those just floating around.
That's a great idea because then people think you're in demand. My grandpa's phone was this big, massive, rotary phone, and you take it off and it had a big freaking capacitor in there.
Yeah.
Like, what's a phone doing with, I mean, like, these days.
Being awesome.
I know. These days, they're just, not even the same technology. It's so crazy.
It's kind of sad almost.
But it's funny because now the modern equivalent of that almost is when we do the live stream. If I need to like update the reruns playlist and stuff like that, I put up a splash screen that says, we're not really down, I'm just updating the playlist kind of a thing for that same kind of...
Yeah.
That's funny. It all comes around, Brian.
It all comes around. It's just not as cool because we're not twisting wires together anymore. Which is sad.
And I had a hard hankering for one of the old BBS games the other night. But why don't we wrap up this intro segment and...
Okay.
Let's do
the news.
Hey, I got it first.
Damn it. What's new in the news this week?
All right, Brian. You want me to do another one? Maybe like this? Here we go. You ready?
I did tell everyone this was going to be a kind of crap show.
How about that? No, I don't. I had to take a new angle. No. Okay, won't do that.
I think after 129 episodes, you don't have to do
whatever goes.
Yeah,
right? That's like your hair today.
It's set. No, this is my 129th anniversary hair.
All right, let's talk about our top story on the news docket for today.
Wow, we actually recorded all of that.
I know.
That's part of the show now.
It is, yeah. You like that?
I do indeed. That's how we roll. It's a do it live sort of a moment.
So Direct 3D will be coming to Linux, and DirectX 11 will be coming with a whole new API, not via Wine.
Okay, so no. Okay. It's not DirectX
it's like an API
Direct 3D.
translation layer?
Yeah, it's Gallium 3D, and it's basically just, a set of libraries that emulate Direct 3D.
But it's supposed to be a much more complete implementation.
Yes. It's just supposed to be a much more complete implementation of compatibility layer of Direct 3D.
I don't know how you say this guy's name, so I'm just going to skip it, but the developer behind the code says that...
I'm going to say it. It's Luca Barbieri.
That's pretty close, dude.
I'm thinking that's it.
He says that this new code is much superior to the Wine implementation of DirectX, and that this implementation is clean, easy to use, and ready to go. So much so. Now remember, of course, this guy is a little biased on this, but he says so much so is this sucker ready to go that that Wine crap, drop it.
What?
Drop it. Don't even develop for OpenGL. Just go DirectX on Linux because this implementation is so good.
What?
Have you heard this?
But what? You can't just do a DirectX on Linux. That's not going to give you any applications.
There's so you write applications.
No developer is going to go, oh, I can use some of the DirectX API on Linux.
No, he's not saying some.
Well, but
he's saying all.
But no.
It's cleaner and tighter.
This is not all of DirectX. This is all of Direct 3D.
Okay, you're right. Not the audio portions.
And not the input portions.
Right, that's a good point.
There's a whole bunch of stuff around DirectX.
The part that draws, though. The part that draws.
No, that's Direct 3D.
Right.
That's not Direct 2D.
Right, but he's talking about this is a mature Direct 3D 10.11 implementation.
But see, that's the thing is you can't create a whole game with just Direct 3D.
Oh, gotcha.
So you're going to end up having to use a bunch of APIs on the Linux side. No developer is going to be able to go, I'm just going to copy my app over and it's going to work, or just recompile it's going to work.
Gotcha. So Sun Goku is pointing out in the chat room that you still need direct input, direct music, direct sound, and X input and direct draw.
Yeah, direct draw. Not Direct 2D, direct draw.
Now
it's been a while since I've done DirectX work.
Now that's all stuff that Wine does have support for. So that's all really big. On a with Wine, you can take an unmodified DirectX based application and it will run.
Yes.
This requires programming on the developer standpoint.
I don't see the point for this.
Well, he thinks that even with his what he calls super thin translation layer, he thinks this still is a better performer than OpenGL for 3D graphics on Linux.
And that's cool. That's cool and everything. I just don't see the point for it. Like
Direct 2D is implemented on. We're all right. So it sounds like there might be some ways to get Direct 2D through this too, but still. You're right. This is only half the solution at best.
So what exactly? Like, okay, I should say this is very cool.
Well,
I need to be clear about this. This is cool. I am impressed that the guy did it.
Yeah.
I think it's cool. I like the more technologies we have, the better. I mean, that's great. I like having options, but I look at this and I try and think of what's the problem this is trying to solve. Is it trying to get Windows games to seamlessly run on Linux without modification? Well, this doesn't provide that.
No.
Is this trying to make it easier to port games?
Yes.
That's only going to provide about a portion of the battle because it's not going to handle the file handling. It's not going to handle the input. It's not going to handle the sound. It's not going to handle the networking layer. It's not going to handle any of that stuff. So,
yeah. I totally agree.
I don't
to
get
me,
it.
I think it's just meant to make the transition easier. It's going to be called. So we're watching for the Gallium 3D. I don't know if it's going to be open source or what the details are. That might be out by the time this show's recorded. But he says that you'll. Now I don't know how this is going to be working, but it sounds like the rumor is he's working on the rest of the DirectX layers, and the intention is eventually you'll be able to just drop in a wine.dll replacement to use this in place of wine.
Interesting.
That could be better if it's more.
Now if we're talking about, this Gallium 3D project is just going to be a improvement over the Direct 3D support that's in Wine, well, then that's just improving Direct 3D support in Wine, and I'm fully behind that. That sounds great.
I don't think it is, though.
I
to
need
me,
more
it sounds like he's
information
trying
on
to
it.
replace Wine. But we'll see. It's something to watch. We'll keep an eye on it. We wanted to report on it just because
it's interesting.
I think it's been like one of the largest trending news topics of the week for Linux. Also, did you see that?
And the guy was kind of harshing on OpenGL big time.
Yeah.
Which I was like, dude, come on, give OpenGL some love.
Right?
I like OpenGL.
Yeah,
OpenGL has some annoyances.
If you read that guy's blog, though, I mean, it sounds like OpenGL gaming is doomed. It's dead. He just makes it sound like OpenGL game. OpenGL is like the messiest.
A lot of games are using Direct 3D over OpenGL. I mean, just a lot of games.
I know.
Yeah, whether we want it to be or not, that's just what's happening. So he's right in that. OpenGL overall is nice though.
Keep it in the gaming vein of things. Did you see that? I don't have a link of it, but did you see that Valve has actually posted a job hiring position for a Linux Steam developer?
They did that a long time ago. They did it like 2 years ago.
I know, and that's what kicked off the rumors initially. And then Steam came out and said, "No, it's
not happening.
That's not happening. That's not happening." No, it just happened again. They just put up another one.
What?
So if you work around Valve and want to work on Linux for something they're doing, maybe it's something in house. Who knows? Maybe it's some sort of private thing that they have with some private contract. But they do have another job posting. So
they're just screwing with us at this point.
I know, right?
I don't. They're totally messing with us.
It feels like a Linux tease.
They are Linux teasing, or maybe they're like, oh man, maybe people really do want this. Okay, well, let's hire a guy now.
Maybe.
I'm not gonna count on it.
All right, Brian.
Are you watching Monty Python and the Holy Grail over there?
I thought it was pretty fitting because Mandriva just put out a statement saying, "We're not dead yet. No, we're still fine. Just a flesh wound. Just a flesh wound."
Okay, I get it now. All right, that took me a minute.
Yeah. No, Mandriva made an official statement saying that they're going to be buckling down on community focus. They're going to be still making the premier KDE distribution.
Can we keep playing that in the background? I think isn't like John Cleese is gonna beat us up.
Yeah. No, we're in for it, dude.
John Cleese is see right there. John Cleese is gonna. I think John Cleese himself is gonna sue the Linux Action Show if we don't turn that off.
That's true.
There we go.
Yeah, we're not supposed to play it for too long.
Yeah, there's like a line. Wait a minute. Unless it's a parody, we are making fun
of Mandriva.
Well,
we're not really making fun.
Well, we're parodying
parallels.
I don't know.
News coverage, fair use.
But we didn't use the audio, so we're fine, right?
Right? That's how it works. That's the law. So they're planning to make the best KDE distribution in the world. They're also committed to future plans with new products and new devices, like things that are ARM-based, things like that.
So
they're going to build a Brazil R&D and a Q&A team in France. I mean, they're really saying that we're really going to still make an effort here.
So they're still around.
Yeah.
So what the heck?
Well, I
think that's great.
The Mangia fork,
yeah,
was just their top dogs leaving to start their own thing.
And that's it.
So, and remember, their thing's going to be more of a Debian-based, community, council-driven thing. This is going to be a Mandriva is still the same. Mandriva corporate
so
base.
Mandriva is not dead. The company still exists.
Yeah.
They're still funded. They still have employees.
Yep.
And they're working on something.
Yep, and they're planning to have the next release of Mandriva, the Community Edition, at the beginning of 2011.
Okay. That's actually, I love that.
Good
That's
news,
great.
right?
That's very good news. That's very good
I know.
news.
There was a lot of people that went, whoa.
I don't know if, it'll be the best thing ever, but you know what? I don't care.
We're going to look at it.
I like that they're still around.
We'll take a look at it. You bet. Okay. Now, this next story is probably the number 2, or maybe it's even in the number 1 spot, and that is this new concept phone that came out from the Mozilla project, the seabird. Of course, everything's got to have a bird in it with these guys these days.
Yep.
And this phone's supposed to be pretty fancy. First of all, it looks like now total concept. This isn't even something they have an R&D like a test handset of.
Nor is it something they've obviously even thought through a little bit.
Well, it was actually I know it came from a community member. And really it's a well done. A lot of interesting concepts here. The guy that created it. See if I can get you his name. Billy May. Billy May created it, and
Billy Mays?
Billy May, and he's a Mozilla Labs community member. And in early 2009, he had an open web phone idea, open web mobile, and this is sort of an extension that he's had over the years, based on some of the new ideas. And it's a really cool, slick-looking thing, Android-based. Really nice all-glass screen, built-in Bluetooth headset that snaps right into the back. Also works as a 3D mouse, sort of like a Wiimote or a PlayStation Move controller. And I think the real money shot that has people excited in this thing is that it also supposedly would have a built-in
Windows
projector.
7.
Well, in the demo video, yeah, their projector is projecting Windows 7.
Yeah.
But it also projects a keyboard. And I do like the idea of a projected keyboard. And then also it has a little projector on the bottom for an IR trackpad. The idea is it's almost like a laptop netbook in your phone.
Yeah.
You set it down, projectors come on, and now it's a full computer. How do you power Android phones? Already don't have awesome battery life.
No.
They're, as an Evo 4G owner myself.
Put two super bright projectors in there, along with weird little haptic touch Bluetooth Wiimote thing.
Yeah.
This is just...
It's not going to happen anytime soon.
I don't understand what this is.
It's a neat idea. I mean, I'd like to see designs
So it's up
going
on
this direction.
MozillaLabs.com. Here's the thing. There's no prototype, so it's not a lab. It's not actually being labbed.
Well, it's concept.
like if lab itself was a verb, this thing would not be labbing.
You know what it needs
at all.
is like what the one laptop per child concept had with a crank. A little crank.
Yeah,
That
to
way you
keep
power
it powered all the time.
I like building towards something like this, though.
Yeah, no, I mean, cool ideas are cool ideas and everything. It's just, we've already, I don't know. I don't know what I'm supposed to get out of this. Am I supposed to get out of this that the people who make Firefox, the browser that can't run for more than 20 minutes at a time, are going to be building the most amazing piece of phone technology ever?
I don't
think they're
so.
going to. So what is this about?
I think this is hey, look, we could, go.
They couldn't. They don't have the manpower. They don't have the skills.
Not them, but the industry maybe should move forward and maybe we should start making a new direction. I feel like
So is this them making fun of Motorola and Nokia and Apple and everyone for not doing more?
Maybe.
Is that what this is?
That's how I take it.
See, I'm okay with that. Poke a little fun at the big guys, get them to do something
Step up their
specific.
game a little bit.
That's cool. But I look at this and I'm like, really? I don't have no idea what this is.
Right. Well, because it's not even close to being production,
and it's not even possible.
But
like it's not even feasibly possible. If you look at the way the light is cast out on the projection, it doesn't make sense. It's not actually a doable thing. The way they're doing it, it's dumb.
Now, do you think though that first
it's a cool video though.
You got an open
guy
source,
did a good job.
You got an open source group and community that are pushing some good concepts with an open source operating system. I mean, it's really good stuff coming from this side of the field, not coming from the commercial biggies.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm going to see a concept video of something I can't have just yet, I'd much rather see it come from the Mozilla Labs than, say, Windows 7 Phone 2012 edition.
That's a good point, actually.
Yeah.
You're right. That is much better that way.
Plus, then when one of those other commercial jerk-offs has the funding to do this, we can be like, yeah, but we thought of that years ago.
Yeah, we've been doing that forever.
Yeah. Did you see our concept video back in 2010?
No, I've seen now Nokia did something similar to this. Motorola did something similar to this, like in concept videos. But you
never really
see anything.
You always wonder maybe you see some of the concepts.
It's like that video back. You remember back when they did that video about Christopher Reeves getting up and walking in a courtroom or whatever it was. Like you remember that? It was a commercial. Like
I didn't see this.
Like 6 or 7 years ago, or maybe even more now.
Oh, like
Christopher Reeves stood up and he says, "Look what we could do with science."
Yeah.
And he just starts walking along. This is back when he was still alive, and that's cool.
Obviously.
Everyone's like, "I want Christopher Reeves to walk again." That was awesome.
Yeah. I do remember.
But here's the thing: there was no there was nothing behind that. That was just like, wouldn't it be super cool walking again? Did that result in people walking again? No.
No.
Did it result in massive leap forward in science? No.
Well, they are working on the suit, though. I know a guy that's working on a whole body suit that you put on, and it's like it helps paraplegic people stand up.
That's cool.
Stuff. But you're right.
Cool.
It's all still very early. It takes years, though, and I guess you have to have something to work towards, right? That way you know what that end goal is, maybe. So when you're building stuff, you're like, boy, maybe so now people watching this Pico projector technology as it develops will be like, maybe we could integrate that into a phone. Yeah, it could be. Having a Pico projector in a phone could be as ridiculous as a camera. At one point, when cameras were first put in phones, they were still very early clunky digital.
They still suck.
Yeah,
they still suck.
They do
Something
still
terrible.
Suck. They
like
do.
I mean, even the latest and greatest phones.
They're getting better though.
Like the N900 has a nice one. The newest Android phones have pretty nice ones. You move them around, and they get that little wavy, warbly effect.
That's the problem with the flat
terrible.
lens. That's the problem with the.
They are absolutely awful cameras. So we're not actually there yet. The iPhone has an awful camera. The Nokia
iPhone 4 is a pretty good camera, dude.
No,
it's pretty good.
it's not. You see pictures
and
taken
the
with
Evo 4,
it.
as long as you hold them still. You're right. You got to hold them still, but they're getting good. I mean, comparatively to where they were when we didn't even have them. And so now you get projectors. You give them 10 years, maybe they'll get good. Yeah, I agree.
See, it's the thing is, if I want to take a great picture, I'm not going to use any of that.
Look at this crazy. This was a crazy video by AT&T in 1993, and they're taking notes on, or they're using nav in their car, which that did not exist.
That was pretty cool,
right? It still actually doesn't look that good. But,
no, it doesn't. But it's actually getting close.
And they got a tablet. That's not bad for 93, but all that stuff was crazy ass back then. That's all.
That's it.
It gets crazy ass, and you're like, well, why is AT&T doing this? Now the question is AT&T, when they do this kind of video, they're more in a position to make something happen.
Yeah.
Right? Mozilla Labs.
Come on, Mozilla.
If they were showing us the future of the most amazing web browser, I'd be like,
I believe them. Or a new application that brought together all your cool data into a totally awesome 3D virtual space or something, that I'd believe it.
Sure.
But this one, I'm like, seriously, obviously, both the hardware aren't going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't know.
See it.
I look at that and I think, I love looking at like sci-fi movies and commercials with totally off-the-wall stuff. I'm like, dude, that is a crazy idea with a like Minority Report with all glass monitors everywhere. I'm like, I want that. Even if it's unrealistic and impractical, I still want it.
Yeah.
But I look at little things like this from a Mozilla group and I immediately think, impossible, not going to get it.
Also,
so it's just depressing. It just makes me sad. It makes me a sad Brian to look at it.
The assumption there is that we're going to stick with keyboard interface on these phones, and voice recognition is already getting really good on Android,
isn't it?
and I just can't imagine that it's just not going to continue to get better, especially since they're collecting all of it, and every time somebody uses it, it gets a tiny percentage better.
Yeah.
And you just take that over the aggregate over the next few years, and voice commands are just going to get amazing.
They're going to get great.
So I don't know if we're even going to. That might be a solution for a problem we don't have anymore. That's my
Whoa.
Right?
That's hardcore.
All right, let's move on to our last news story because this one isn't so big in the it's not a small story, but a lot of people hit me up on Twitter and buzz about this one. Adobe,
it's kind of a big story.
Adobe releases an official new 64-bit beta Flash player for Linux, and I guess they've had 64-bit Flash out before.
Yeah, they did.
But they scrapped it.
It was buggy.
Yeah, and it was early.
And worth noting, only available for Linux.
Yeah.
It was for quite a while.
This
64-bit was Linux was the only place you could run 64-bit Flash.
I don't know if this one's out for the Mac, but this one's out for Linux and Windows now. And
yeah, I think it's out for Mac, or it's going to be soon. One of the two.
I loaded it up. On my machine. And one caveat I'll have is when you download this sucker, no more installer, no package, no shell script, just libflash.so. And so I'll throw in the show notes.
There's
link.
a package you can get for it.
Oh, can you?
Yeah.
Well, I downloaded it from Adobe Labs.
But this is the beta.
I bet if I was really checking around too, I probably could have found like a
people have already prepackaged them, but this is just a beta version.
It's not tough though to install.
You have to go drop it in the right folder, and you're pretty much done.
I'll throw some links in the show notes. You can see what directory you're supposed to put it in, and also it's not a bad idea to uninstall your old one before you install this one, and since it's not a package. But that said,
worked good, didn't it?
I went to a site, like our site. I went to hulu.com, YouTube, and live.twit.tv, all which would generally use 60 to 70% CPU doing Flash Player. Now, I'm talking 4 to 7% CPU usage.
Big difference.
Rocking.
Yeah.
So nice improvement, Adobe. Thank you.
They really did a nice job.
I haven't had a ton of time with it yet. Chris is a happy boy. Brian's a happy boy. So good job, folks. And also, one other thing is Chrome is a little trickier to replace than Chrome because Chrome now ships with Flash built in. And
it's a little trickier.
It's a little hard to swap out, so you might look into that. I don't know if you can use it with Chrome yet, but
it's easy to use in Chromium.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Chromium's in the repos usually. So.
Chromium's in the repos usually.
Oh, right, Brian. Well, that's all the news for this one.
Now, we've got Ubuntu 10.10 coming up pretty soon. Now, this isn't the long-term support release. This isn't the one that all the eyes in the world are going to be upon, except for one thing. One key bit, and that is that in the Ubuntu Software Center, they're basically their replacement for Synaptic. They're adding in the store. I don't think they're not really calling it the store, but the ability to purchase paid commercial software directly from the Ubuntu Software Center, and have it installed on your Ubuntu desktop.
It's like version 3.0 or something of the Software Center, so it's the next iteration of the Software Center that we have today with commercial software support for actually selling and purchasing things like that. So we thought we've talked about commercial software over the years.
We've talked about it a bit, and there have been options like this. There have been
Click and Run comes to mind.
Exactly. So,
for better or worse.
So Linspire or Lindos or whatever.
Lindos, buddy.
Man, it's been a long time since we've used the word Lindos, hasn't it? But Linspire has the Click and Run, and Click and Run still exists.
Yep.
It's still there.
So it's technically going to be a competitor to the Ubuntu Software Center. It's a competitor
to the Ubuntu Software Center. Now Click and Run has not a ton of commercial software, but a significant amount. You can hop in there. You can buy, I think you can buy Parallels. I think you can buy VMware Workstation in there. You can buy some codecs, and you can buy a couple of games. There's not insignificant stuff in there.
No.
Now, they've never really gained the traction, though, at least not amongst Linux users. Maybe in OEMs that's worked out. Maybe with certain OEMs.
We've heard about those Walmart deals and stuff like that.
Yeah, but for those of you watching and listening to this and us doing it, it never really caught on.
Right.
I tried to like it. I never really got into it.
And there was some hostility there with the company itself. I mean, that was an issue.
Yeah, it just didn't do it. But Canonical, on the other hand, they've got the distro that is the winner right now.
Big dog.
They're
the big Linux dog,
They're the big kid on campus, so this starts to get really interesting.
Yeah.
Now, the store, the Ubuntu Software Center itself, is looking great. It's looking nice.
The software interface and stuff like that is coming along.
It's coming along. It actually looks really good. It's my favorite way to install software right now. They did a really nice job on it. It's clean. It's slick. It's not too cluttered. It's not like it loads some big old web page with all sorts of flashy ads and sliding things and whatnot. No, it's just a nice, here's a list.
And what I love...
Here's some icons. Here's a quick description.
Is it does that whole queuing install thing. You browse through it, you can tear through it, and click install, keep going. Click install, keep going. Then it just queues them all up and loads them on your system.
Exactly. It's really nice and straightforward. It has, the featured and what's new stuff over there that, you'd expect from like what you see in like the iPhone or Android app stores.
And they try to pick out some of the better, well-known Linux applications. That way you can go in and kind of get what you're expecting and things like that.
And that makes sense. You want it to look nice. You want it to look nice. You want to showcase the best of what's available on Linux. That's awesome. I love the bejesus out of it. Now, but let's talk about the software purchasing angle,
because that's got to be a close one to your heart, Brian.
It is. So I mean, so I obviously have some commercial software I would like to get into the Ubuntu Software Center store.
Of course.
Top of it, I want to get Illumination in there. So I dropped a line to Canonical. I got a little story to tell you.
Okay, Brian.
So I dropped a line to a couple of folks at Canonical that I know. Some of them replied to my email. Some of them did not.
They don't want to talk about it too much? You got the impression there was not a lot to say?
They didn't really want to talk about it much. So then I'm like, you know what? I'm not getting a lot of traction here. What's going on? God damn it. I'm Brian. Talk to me.
Brian wants to know what's going on with commercial software on the Linux desktop.
Yeah, you guys have to talk to me here. I've been out there. I go to friggin' Linux conventions. I put up stupid videos, mostly talking about the need for a good software store for commercial software on Linux.
I know.
For the last few years.
And I was watching one of our reruns from like 2.5, 3 years ago on the live stream. One of our first videos we ever did, and we took on the topic of we think Linux desktop to be successful needs commercial software, and that was controversial at the time.
Yeah.
It was taboo almost.
It was taboo.
We were kind of afraid to bring up the subject. We got a lot of backlash. And now I think it's become a little more accepted that commercial software at least has a place. You shouldn't have to be forced to use it, but it has a place on the desktop, and we need a way to get that.
Yep. So basically, I've been harping on this for so long now. I'm like, dude, if this is coming and I'm not in there with my software, I'm never going to hear the end of it. I'm going to get so many emails and so many calls. And so I'm like, all right, I need to be there day one. So about a month and a half ago, I started emailing people. It took me almost a month to get a response that was at all reasonable. So here's the thing.
Oh, no.
So I was emailing there's email addresses on Canonical's website for getting a hold of people for becoming like a partner of Canonical or talking to them about press, or I basically emailed everyone I could.
Partner sounds like a great way to go.
And eventually someone gets back to me. I'm like, finally, great. So they're like, I took a quick look at your website. Hey, you know what might be really great for you? Go take a look at some of the Ubuntu communities, some of the local Ubuntu user groups. That'd be a really interesting way to go for you. And that was it. And I'm like, did you not read my email? I want to know about the store, how to get my app into the store, and I want to find out information about the store. Tell me about the store.
Right.
I know there's really great Ubuntu users in my area. I've met them a lot.
That's red flag number 1.
Yeah, okay. I'm done with that part.
Yeah.
I like them. I'm gonna go talk to them again.
Yeah.
I will probably buy them beers at some point.
But I'm not going to talk to them about the Ubuntu Software Center.
They do not actually know. In fact, nobody knows. It's been secret. At least it has. At least it seemed that way. So I'm like, okay. I finally got around to talking with someone. Talked to some really cool people.
Okay.
And
some people that are supposed to be working with this software center?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. So I finally got talking to the right people. Got to talk to a cool dude. I'm going to leave all the names out of it for the moment, just in case.
Well, that and you have a horrible memory.
No, I remember the names here. I remember the names here. I do have a horrible memory, though. And here's the thing. I remember the names. I'd probably mispronounce them.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And they were American-sounding names. I'm still going to screw them up. But so I got around to talking to them.
I think it's Beacon. Jono Beacon? No, I'm kidding. It wasn't Jono.
Yeah. Jano Bacon. So I was... No. Friggin' Jono. Never got back to me. Friggin' Jono. Jono.
He's too busy doing Floss Weekly. Oh, wait. He quit doing that.
Oh, yeah, because he was too good for that show even. Even Jono's too good for that show. All right, so what were we talking about? Right, so I was talking to these guys about it. And, I'm like, hey, I want to get my software in there.
Dude, you bet.
What do I need to do to get in there day one? I can commit engineering resources, marketing resources. I want to tell people about this. I want to shout it from the top of the roofs.
Yeah.
And they're like, you know what? That's great. We love that. We want to. First, they talked to me. They're like, let's temper your expectations here. We don't know what the sales will be like, and that's fair.
Totally,
They don't have a clue.
No,
because they haven't done this before.
Brand new. Totally.
So they're like, you know what? You could get it in there and make no sales. I'm like, I totally get that. I don't have to make sales. I just have to get it in there, or I can't leave my house ever again because people will make so much fun of me.
Yeah, we've been talking about it for years. So if you're not in there,
if I'm not in there, I'm out. So I'm like, anything I have to do, anything, literally, we will cease development on all of our software right now and focus on the software center for you for free to get this done.
All right. So how'd that go?
So it's not going to happen.
Really?
Basically, what they came back with, they feel like there's not enough time between now and when 10.10 ships to get my software in there, which about a month.
Well, you see what you got to do, Brian, is you got to set it up in a package in a FedEx thing. You got to get a FedEx label. Then you got to ship all those copies to them, Brian, and then they're going to have to stock them in their Canonical warehouse.
Chris.
Chris. They're going to have to go through and inventory their warehouse.
This is not
Brian.
a situation where Brown can do something for me and make it all better.
No,
it's all digital. So I'm like, come on here. This, people give Apple a hard time when it takes 3 weeks to get approval into the App Store. So I'm like, okay, I need to get to the bottom of this.
Sure.
There is not, and I'll be clear about everything so far. So far as I can tell, there is not presently a system in place for submitting applications to the Ubuntu Software Center store. They are not looking to get any new applications in the Software Center store for the 10.10 launch. However, they are looking to have additional applications in the Software Center store post-launch. So now I talked to them, and I'm like, okay, great. So okay. All right, so I'm obviously not going to make it in with my software for the launch.
Right.
That's just not doable. If you guys decide it is, but you need a little help with it, and you change your mind, let me know. We will jump in and work weekends to make this happen.
Okay.
But I don't think that's going to happen. So I'm like, okay, so for the media side of things, so when I sit down on the Linux Action Show and I tell people about it,
right,
and they get ready for it, and I get ready to review this, one of the things I'm going to be reviewing is that store. How many apps are going to be in there at launch?
What's the word, Brian?
There's no official word on how many apps will be in there. However, the official stance is that if there is one application in the store, it will be a success.
Yeah,
and
in
as
fact,
present, there is one, the Fluendo Media Codex.
on their Launchpad or organization site for the store, they have on the top of it, in Maverick, we will only offer one thing for sale to end users. The Fluendo codec pack, I assume. I'm not sure.
That's it. It's the Fluendo codec
And
pack.
in my opinion, we got a couple of non-starters right here that will deliver the store dead on arrival. Number one, it's completely non-transparent at this point. You have a major open source player building a store that's going to feature open source and closed source applications, and at present, they are more secretive than Apple. I don't believe that's intentional.
Now there is just,
but that's the case.
Just so you guys know how this works. So there is, when you open up the Software Center, there is a separate section for paid software. It literally just says paid software.
Okay.
And you click on it, and then it lists all the software that you can buy.
That's fine.
And it works great in that regard. However, there is only one.
And that's a joke. I mean,
buy.
people are gonna see that. I'm gonna see that and go, "Oh, so this isn't a real thing they're trying." I mean, and it's one, or you have to start immediately setting expectations.
Right.
Adding that to a wiki isn't doing that.
No.
Also, they need to start coming out with and if they don't have it yet, they need to start working on it, and maybe even working on it in a more public fashion. What's the submission process to get your application in there? What's the pricing? What's the cut going to be? What's all that stuff going to work out to for developers? And then for end users' perspective here, I need to know what my rights are going to be with software that I buy. Am I going to be able to only use it through machines that are authorized through your Ubuntu Software Center? Is it just going to download a package that I could just put up on Usenet?
Yep.
How is this going to work? This is a process that Canonical needs to step forward and really be a lot more clear about, because at present, and I totally do not believe it's intentional, at present, I could get more information out of Steve Jobs and the App Store. I really can't.
You can, and they don't give information.
No.
They give so little information, everyone gets pissed, and yet they give more information. So now, it is troubling to me. So I talked with them. I'm like, look, I mean, people are going to be disappointed. Everyone's going to review this. Even people who are super friendly to you guys are going to review this, like us. And they're going to be so harsh on this. This is going to be the highlight of Ubuntu 10.10. The multi-touch stuff, the touchscreen stuff, that's gonna fall to the wayside.
That's a small majority.
Because no one's really going to use it, because most people who are reviewing it won't have a touchscreen.
And what sucks is they realize Canonical is a small company with limited resources here, but
they're competing with the big boys.
they're launching this in a time where the big metric is how big is your app store.
Right.
Ooh, I have a 50,000 app store. Oh, I have only a 5,000 app store. I'm BlackBerry. I'm tiny. Stuff like that. And now Canonical's going to launch
with one.
And this will be considered the Linux software store, even though Click and Run's been around. This is going to be the Linux software store.
Literally, the least number of software possible to have in a store and still technically call it a store. It's like if you walk into a 7-Eleven and they have one Twinkie. That is the only thing in the store is a singular Twinkie, and it's not even front and center.
Right.
It's on the left. After you walk in, you go around the left. It's kind of near the bathrooms. There's a shelf there with the Twinkie.
And here's the great part.
You're never going to go to that 7-Eleven
Hostess doesn't know how they should have gotten their Twinkie in there. They don't know how they can price their Twinkie. It's just happened to be that 7-Eleven went to them and said, hey, we'd like to feature your Twinkie in our store.
Yes, that is exactly it.
Bad.
Super bad.
And I know it's hard. So what if this is not, this might not be something they can address before launch. And launch.
The chat room says, it's a boutique.
Yeah,
not a store.
It's a boutique, exactly, and
it's a Twinkie boutique.
They have
love
to
a good Twinkie,
they have to start running damage control now. Start setting
Big
expectations right now.
That's exactly what I told them. So I'm like, okay, what can I say? Well, these discussions we've been having. I don't think any of the discussions I've had with them, and I tried to clarify, but I never really got a full response. Is anything that is like under NDA? We don't really have any NDA going on. There's no big thing like that. And I want to say straight up, the people I talked to. One gentleman in particular was very helpful, and was trying to get things moving right, and agreed that we need to set expectations now.
Good.
However, I am a little bit surprised that Canonical is not doing that.
Already thinking that.
Why
should be already doing that?
Honestly, there should be a press release about it.
Right?
I mean, all they have to do is come out, and they don't have to come out and say, we're going to have a crappy store at launch. No, what they have to say is, this is the beginning. This is an alpha release of the store.
We're going to launch what will one day be one of the largest Linux software stores, but we want to do it right.
So we
got to do it
staggered release of over the next year of continuous new updates and new additions to the store, and maybe set a timeline. Maybe even if they come out and say we won't have a submission process until version 11.04.
And if
that would be okay as long as they said it.
In a on a Launchpad website that says that, well, that's just as bad as when I gave Fedora a hard time for having some stupid stuff in their wiki.
It really is.
Being in a wiki means that your small little bubble sees it, but it does not mean that the general public sees it, and the general public will see whatever the reviews are and whatever their expectations already are. So you have to get out in front of that. You've got to, because you're going to screw it for the rest of us if you mess this up. This isn't going to be bad for Ubuntu.
This is bad for Linux.
This will be bad for Linux.
Yes.
Because that's how it's going to get looked at. And that's the position you are now in as Ubuntu. So that, unfortunately, is the responsibility you have to take. I don't care if that means you need to have an extra person to do that. I don't care if that means Jono has to do one less podcast or what it means. Somebody needs to get out there and get ahead of this before you screw it up for the rest of us.
We're giving Jono a hard time. I
just cannot buy that they don't have enough resources to get one person blogging that has enough.
Yes.
Like, Jono's blog is followed enough that if he started talking about it, the word would get out there.
It would get picked up by someone.
And if
OS News or someone would cover it.
And if they just put it on a wiki, nobody covers it.
Exactly.
And so, I'm so disappointed they're not already handling this.
I am too. Now they've got almost a month. They've got just shy of a month to handle this.
Which means they're about 3 months too late.
But now if they get on top of it right now, like literally watch this show, because come on, I know half of you guys are.
I would.
Watch the show on Monday morning. Give us a call. We will work with you to get the word out there. We're trying. I mean, yes, we're going to review Ubuntu. And yes, we're going to give it a harsh review or a positive review based on whatever, and we're going to be straight with it. But just the same.
I kind of like it so far.
I kind of like it so far.
Yeah.
But the problem is, this one thing is going to dominate the reviews.
I know, dude.
It's going to be the headline.
It already is.
It's going to
already is.
It's going to be a top story on Dig. That's going to be a joke. It's going to be Ubuntu App Store launches with one app. And it's going to be the most clicked on thing on Dig, and every Apple and Android fanboy is going to be on there basically saying lol over and over again, and then with little mini diatribes about how Linux is a joke. Now granted, that's kind of Dig.
And they would put it's a trap in there, but Dig 4 really sucks, so they can't. Now, what I will say is that...
Speaking of which, I got a little Admiral Akbar Lego keychain right here. Nice. I don't know if you can see that. I got that at the Lego store. So I
should get a Pedo Bear keychain too.
I can reach into my pocket at any time and remember that it is in fact a trap.
It is always a trap, right?
Yeah.
What the story could be on Dig is it could be a Dig post that says Ubuntu launches what will become Linux's major app store with an initial test launch or something like that.
Yes, that would work. That would work as long as they have at least general timeframes of what might happen in the future. That's all it takes. So I'm a little upset about this right now. I like that the App Store's it's there now. I shouldn't call it the App Store. The Software Center store.
Do we know anything about like how people are going to get their apps in there? What the pricing structure is going to be?
Okay, yes.
You want to talk about that?
So I can talk about that a little bit.
Lay it on me.
So there's no specific, Ubuntu takes 30% of all developer things.
Really?
Developers don't necessarily set the pricing. So how this works, bear with me. This actually works a little more similar to retail.
Okay.
And it's both good and bad. I see there's real benefits to it.
Okay.
How it works at present, and again, this could change dramatically even in the next few weeks because there's no other apps in there. So there's no official policy.
Right.
So this is just kind of unofficial rough structure of how they're doing it right now. The application developer, so if I went in, I would say, here's Illumination Software Creator. I am going to sell it to Ubuntu. So my price is $10 a copy.
And you sell that in bulk to Canonical?
No, I'm just here's each issue. Each copy would be $10. $10. My suggested street price is $15. Now Canonical can go and sell it for kind of whatever price they want, basing it off of my suggested price. So you give a suggested
manufacturing price,
which allows Canonical the option to do coupons and sales.
I like that.
Throughout the store, which Apple and Android and whatnot can't really do.
Because they can't set the price.
They can't set the price. So now this gives Ubuntu a little more power. It's a little bit more like an actual store, like going to a Best Buy or a Fry's or something.
If you do deal with a box retailer where they box it up, but a publisher does all this kind of stuff, and they set the final price.
Right.
Okay.
So that's how the
But
Ubuntu
in that
Software
traditional
Center
setup,
works.
doesn't usually that manufacturer buy a large bulk from you?
You buy
at
it
once?
in bulk. That's why they get those discounted prices.
But in this case, they're actually going to be doing it on a per purchase basis.
Right. But that's okay because we can go in and say and make it something where essentially they get 30% of it or potentially less or a little more or however you want to set it up with Ubuntu.
But doesn't that also mean that if you want to raise the price, you have to negotiate that with Canonical? or lower the price.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, you got to talk with Canonical about it.
but what if you just for the weekend wanted to have a $2.99 sale?
They don't have anything in there for that at the moment because there's no control panel.
Right.
There's no way to log
yet,
into a
sure.
website and modify the price in there. That doesn't exist.
Not even needed yet.
There's only one app. And they weren't sure how they could possibly get in additional apps. So what I'm looking at now
I understand it's a huge thing for them to take on.
It is a big thing, and they've come a long way since last April, a long way. So I'm not going to poo-poo it. I'm going to try really hard not to. It's a big deal. It's great. However, I do get the impression, based on just that information alone, I would assume that the infrastructure is not necessarily in place.
So they're taking it slowly.
To handle adding in those new applications. Maybe it's not that dynamic yet. I don't know that that's the case, but it kind of seems that way. So I'm a little concerned. I'm a little disappointed. I'm annoyed that I'm not going to be in the App Store at launch. Now, granted, come on, I'm just Brian. And by I'm just Brian, I mean I'm the best thing ever.
Right.
Is what I'm saying.
Right.
No, I'm just kidding.
I'm the biggest show in the world.
But there's no games in there.
Yeah.
The Greenhouse games, like the Penny Arcade games, would be great to have in there.
Would be excellent.
They run on Linux. There's a lot of
Maybe
great
the Indie
Linux.
Bundle.
The Indie Bundle, all those games from the Indie Bundle, they could go on there. There's a lot of great Linux games on there that aren't in there. And I feel like if you're throwing in a whole store and there's not one game, in fact, technically, there's not one application. The only thing in there
codecs
are video and audio codecs.
Yeah.
Which are great. I love the Fluendo codecs. I use them. I have them on all my systems. They're all my Ubuntu systems. They're great.
Potentially, the Software Center could be this amazing tool that could integrate with Ubuntu One, and you could sit down at your machine, you log into the Software Center, all of your purchased applications automatically re-download and install to the latest version.
And I think that's what they're thinking.
When that happens, that's going to be awesome.
Yes.
The problem is that's what people expect with version 1.0 now.
Yep.
It really is. And if it's not going to be that, you better let people know.
Or at the very least, there's got to be enough in there to make people want to come back and look at it. So my problem is, so if I get onto the, let's say in December, let's say it takes until about December and Illumination gets into the store.
Yeah, once it ships.
Along with a couple other apps, maybe we get a few apps in there. Great. Over the previous 2 months, though, that means that people will have never seen anything in the store except for codecs. If they wanted them, they bought them. If they don't want them, they're not going to ever look at that again because there's nothing in there. People have no motivation to go back and check the store because there's nothing in there.
Yeah.
I mean, if
they're going to have to wait for something to tell them, I guess. But
here's the thing.
That's a rough
I'm not
way to
going
go.
to look.
Yeah, I'll forget.
I'm going to forget.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited about the store. I could potentially make money from the store. I'm not going to look. So if I'm not going to look, well, hell, no one's going to check it out. So I'm going to put my apps in the store. That means that in order to make my apps a success in the Ubuntu store, which, by the way, I'll earn less money at than just simply selling them myself, I'm going to have to go out and promo and market the Ubuntu software store for them, which is
frustrating.
Dumb.
It's frustrating.
It's dumb. It's very, very dumb. It means that Ubuntu's going to earn less money. I'm going to earn less money.
Yeah.
And nobody wins. Nobody wins in that scenario.
I totally agree, dude.
I don't understand what they're thinking on this one. Honestly, rip it out.
Whoa.
Do not release it for 10.10. Do not do it, guys.
You think so?
Because 10.10 is a good release. It looks nice. It's got a lot of technological improvements. The touchscreen support itself alone is quite cool and worth talking about and demoing. And CNET and whatnot will cover it and make it great. Rip it the hell out. Turn it off.
There you go.
Do not have it in there. What do you guys get for having it in there? I know you said you'd have a store for 10.10. I know you said that. But you know what?
It's not a store.
It's not a store. It's a one-click way to buy a codec.
It's an easier way to get Fluendo codecs.
Which is great. But you already had that on your website on Ubuntu.com. So why not just put a link into Ubuntu.com and tell people to buy the codecs there? That's fine. Rip it out. finish up the submission process,
Totally.
put it back in for 1104.
Or can I ask you a question?
A full way,
When
and
did
then
we-
make a big deal about it.
When did we get stuck in this mindset that you can't add anything until the release? Like, take Android, for example. At one point, Google just went, wait a minute, why are we waiting until every version of Android update our major apps? And they busted out Maps, Voice, and Gmail in the last 6 months to be apps in the App Store.
Way to go.
You get updates for those without having to wait for the whole damn OS. Why do we have to wait for the whole OS before we get a new version? Like, we don't wait for a new version of iTunes or a new version of Mac OS 10 to get iTunes.
No.
You know, you don't wait for what Zune or whatever Microsoft has for Windows 8 to get Zune 2.0.
That's true.
So why do we have to wait till 1104 before we're going to get, or 1010? Just put it out when it's ready. And if you're afraid it can't stand on its own and that the only way you're going to get adoption is if people download the distro and that's the only way it'll ever get installed, well, then you got a bigger problem. It's not going to get used anyways.
But if you think about it, the new distros are still going to come out.
Yeah.
So
you could pick it up at 1104.
At 1104, you pull in all the latest. It's fine.
And in the meantime, you put it out after 1010's out, and you've got more than one application in there. And until 1104, the people that download it for 1010 are your testers.
Now here's the thing. If you really think about this, what would that mean, though? That would mean that Ubuntu would be more of a rolling release.
Well, I mean, if they're going to start adding Ubuntu 1 and a value add, I say break them out from the distro release.
But think about it.
Yeah?
Think about it for a second.
Well, that'd be good for Ubuntu. I'm not saying
let's say
userland applications make them separate. Though Ubuntu-specific created userland applications, break those out from the distro release.
Maybe that's true. But like in Windows or OS 10, there are a number of applications that they don't update.
True.
They leave them the same. I mean, hell, look at OS 10.
You got
the major
iCal
upgrade feature in every single release of OS 10 is a new version of a calendar and their instant messaging software.
Yeah,
it's like the biggest thing. Like, oh my gosh, new version of iChat or new version of iCal. So
it's true, dude.
So what do you do? So then it's Ubuntu choosing some of the apps are for the upgrade, some of the apps are a rolling release sort of a deal.
I don't know. I think also maybe
I think they're okay there.
And I know monopoly isn't even a word we need to worry about here, but let's look at the flip side. If Microsoft was doing this, or if anybody else had their own programs they were building themselves and then bundling with their own operating system, people start to look at that and going, well, that's a little unfair. But I also think it's a way to say, well, we're not sure if it's going to get adoption unless we include it. Like IE, the only way IE took off is because Microsoft had to bundle it in their OS, right? Yeah. Otherwise, Netscape would have stayed the main browser. So if you bundle, I think they feel that's their number one way to get this pickup. I think, like you're saying, it forces them to ship before they're ready.
Yeah, if they're trying to ship before they're ready. I like someone in the chat room just made the analogy of having a software store with one app is like having Monopoly, but you can only buy Baltic Avenue.
It kind of is.
No one will ever play that game again.
You do have to start somewhere, but I don't know if you have to do it like this. But
you got to start somewhere, but you don't have to release it. So like having it in beta and allowing people to opt in to use it is great. Forcing it out there as a thing that everyone gets is bad. Super, super bad. I mean, that's,
because you make it look like you're saying, flag in the ground, we're done, it's shippable, it's a final product.
Yes.
When you do that, that's what the distinction is. It is a statement and it is a perception.
So I'm a little concerned about that. And realistically, no one else can do this. This is why it's such a big deal for me right now.
They've got the desktop penetration.
Can do this.
They penetrate desktops like nothing.
I'm a big OpenSUSE fan right now. A very big OpenSUSE fan. In fact, I'm using SUSE Studio right now to build. Get this, a new distro.
Yeah.
It's not really a big
your
market
take on
distro. Yeah. It's just for Illumination. It's called the Illumination Software Creation Station. The whole point is people can grab one live CD distro and build apps with like tutorials and everything else. I'll release that I think on Monday. But anyway, so like I love OpenSUSE. I love it. I think it's great. It's great technology done properly with maybe some flaws, but overall so great.
Sure.
I love it.
Sure.
They don't have the market penetration to do a store and make it be this big of a deal.
Yeah.
So and same with Fedora. Fedora can't
Same
do
with
this.
Click and Run, really, and they have the biggest store beforehand.
And Click and Run doesn't have a distro that's this big, is the thing. They don't have a mechanism for getting it out there to everyone.
Right.
Ubuntu does.
Yep.
Canonical does.
Yep.
And they're taking it, they're doing it properly. Like the store looks good. They're about halfway there.
Yeah.
They're about halfway there. And I'm really excited for that. But they're not there. Please, guys, please pull it back. Or at least
the problem is that they're on this. They're the first. right? They're making the big jump. Like if Fedora had a store out, like or if Mandriva had a store out already, and it had 1 or 2 apps in it, and then Canonical launched with 1 or 2 apps, people wouldn't be making such a big fuss.
No.
Yeah.
No, people wouldn't. And,
all right.
And this would be better. Or instead of waiting, get 5 applications in there. Maybe get like 3 random games, even if it's from the same publisher. Get Illumination in there, and then maybe like there's a couple of good image editors that are commercial. Throw one of those in there. Like just work with those authors only, so that there's some games and stuff in there, so that way people come back.
I agree, sir.
Even if you have to change the architecture later, just get it in there for now, so that people know it's a real store. Now, anyway, that's my thought.
Jay-Z in the chat room mentions that Mandriva did have a store with hardware. Theirs was a web store, not like one built into their software package manager. But it's not really the same. When you build it into like an app store like interface with your built-in software manager, it's a big deal. No, I know there was, but they don't have like the Software Center application.
No.
That's what I'm saying. That's what makes it a big deal.
Yeah,
that makes it a destination portal.
Plus, I like Mandriva. It's not Ubuntu in numbers. I mean, Ubuntu has the numbers. I mean, if you look at them, they're like something like 44% of the Linux market share for desktop users.
Yeah, you look at our web
now.
stats, we've got more Ubuntu visitors than I think like all the other distros combined.
So just you guys can kind of get a grasp on this. I mean, granted, this is going to be skewed because, well, you know, I'm on the Linux Action Show. But for Illumination Software Creator, the download numbers, probably around 40-some% are going to Ubuntu. And that includes Windows and Mac. So of everything, Ubuntu's still getting around 40% of my total downloads. So I look at that and I'm thinking, okay, all right, you know, let's do this, Ubuntu. Let's get this right. But I'm putting it out there. It's out there in the universe. If they don't, people who are reviewing it, please temper your expectations when you go into the store. It's not there. Focus on the other stuff. Just pretend like it doesn't exist.
Pay no attention to that over in the corner.
You know, the good news is this isn't like ripping out a working photo browsing application and replacing it with something that doesn't work right.
Right.
This is literally adding in a new piece of software that you don't have to click on but isn't quite ready. And you know what? Make mention of it because it's kind of stupid. But don't harsh on them too bad.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm torn. I'm very torn on this one.
I'm totally with you.
My heart, my cockles.
I know it's a close one
here.
It's in here, dude. I know.
Yeah, it's a real. Honestly, and I'm going to be straight about this. No matter what distro it was, if they were having the same thing out of the gate right now, I'd be giving them the same. It is
stuff. A little more urgent. It feels because it is Ubuntu and the larger base.
It does, but
all right, Brian. I think we probably said everything we can about the new Software Center.
I think so.
Let's see what people out there have to say.
Yeah.
If you've got any thoughts, JupiterColony.com. Let us know. You got comments? Leave it in the comments wherever you're watching this. We'd like to hear what you guys think.
I'd love to.
All right. Okay, Brian. That's our look at the Ubuntu Software Center.
And that brings us to the end of this week's episode of the Linux Action Show. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Lots and lots of fun today. It was a little bit saddy in the middle.
We got a little soapboxy.
It was up, and then it took a little dip of awe.
High note. Let's get a high note up in here.
High note. I want a high note.
Well, we're kicking around Season 3. I think in early Season 3, we're finally going to bust out our Arch review. What do you think? You ready for that? I mean Season 14.
Season 3.
Jeez, I know, right?
Yeah.
That would be a long time ago.
You mean 9 seasons ago? So starting with episode 140.
You know what? I just dyslexiated in my mind and I dropped off the 1.
Episode, 140? 30?
31. We're on 39 right now, right?
29.
129.
This is our 129th episode.
So 140 will be the last episode of this season.
So 141.
Would you want to do it that soon?
No.
Okay.
I'm not going to be ready then.
Yeah,
but
I'm not either.
That season, we'll be doing a full Arch review.
In the first half of the season, we're gonna get on with Arch, and this has got to be, since we started the show, the #1 distro we've had requests for.
Yeah, a huge request.
Crazy.
I mean, I know Arch isn't like a huge user base wise,
people
percentage
are passionate about
it. People
it,
love it, and you know what? I have not given it a fair shake, and I'm gonna.
Never even installed it before.
I'm gonna install it, and my thing is, I want to use it for a full month. I want to use it for a month before I sit down and really review it for you guys, because I don't want to give you a kind of a half-assed, here's a kind of cursory thing. I want to really live it and tell you what I felt about it.
I'm excited about that. I'm hoping I like it. I've honestly been avoiding it for years because it just smelled similar to Gentoo, and I was a Gentoo user for a couple of years. That was an awkward period in my life. I'm not the same person anymore, and I'm worried that Arch might remind me of that.
I don't know, man. It could be good times.
It could be. I could love it. One thing I do know is I love me fresh packages, especially on this show. I love talking about it. I like to get the freshest packages in my hand possible.
You do.
And I like to really get them in my hand, and I take a good look at them, and I talk about them on the show.
These are some great fresh packages.
Look at those packages,
Look at
Brian.
those fresh packages.
All right, everyone. Well, if you'd like to get a hold of the show.
This show took a horrible turn, man.
You know what? We forgot to Facebook this thing, but we normally do when we go live. It's facebook.com/Jupiter Broadcasting.
Oh, yeah, we forgot that. I'm also over on Twitter, twitter.com/Brian Lunduke, or you can go to my blog at lunduke.com, or you can check out Illumination Software Creator at radicalbreeze.com.
Yeah.
Which is really fun for everybody.
You really should check that out. And I am twitter.com/ChrisLAS, and,
Look at you.
all kinds of fancy stuff.
You've stuck to the Linux Action Show roots with your Twitter names and everything.
I know.
Chris
Well,
LAS.
It's maybe because I'm lazy, probably.
Yeah, I went around and changed my names everywhere.
I was good on you. It just takes so much work these days.
Did it? Actually, it took me like a couple hours to get it changed everywhere, and then I had to go to ping.fm and change all my accounts there. And then all my desktop and mobile apps stopped working.
And then I got to update all our credits.
Oh,
that takes me forever.
You know it's in the credits of this. It actually says your name is Chris LAS.
I know, and I've noticed I just don't see. The problem is to fix that, I have to open up the credits again and
re-render the whole thing.
And I edit the Linux Action Show in such a compressed time period that the time to open that up and do that, I don't care.
You don't care?
Nah.
No, you don't have cares at all for that one.
That is not a priority list for me. I just don't know what it is about me.
Well, if you guys, so we're going to be reviewing Arch, but if there's other things that you guys are really excited about, go over to the forum. JupiterColony.com. Talk to us in the forum about what you'd like to see, because the more people are talking about particular topics, the more likely we are to review them.
That's how it works, guys.
If you want to hear about puppy, or you want to hear about mangina, or whatever that Linux distro is, we will review them.
Yeah.
If people are really legitimately interested.
We don't live inside a little small box where we don't hear your input. So if you want us to talk about something, usually once you start talking about it and we get interested, that's when we do it.
That's when we do it.
Okay, everyone. Well, thanks so much for watching or listening to this week's episode.
One more thing.
Lay it on me, big guy.
If any of you guys are in the Western Washington area, I will be down at the Seattle Android Developer User Group on October.
Listen to you, Mr. Android User Group guy over here.
Hold on. It will be on October 12th. It's at 6:30 p.m.
Cool.
It's down actually at the F5 building down in Seattle near the Seattle waterfront. Anyone can go, free to attend. I'm going to be giving a presentation on Illumination Software Creator to make your own Android apps.
Nice.
And afterwards, we're going to go grab some munchies or something. We're going to go out, grab some drinks, grab some munchies. So if you're around and you just want to come in and hang out and check it out, feel free to head on over to blog.radicalbreeze.com. There's some links there that can take you on over to check that good stuff out. But that's where I'm going to be. That's my only live event in October. So
that sounds pretty geeky, though. I like it, dude.
It's going to be lots of geeky.
It's a good one.
It's going to be lots of geeky.
Okay, everyone. Well, thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode, and we'll see you next week.
Boom.